Welcome to the Assistant Room Podcast Season 2. We are the go-to online community for assistants around the world. And if you're looking for some serious career inspiration from some of the best and brightest executive assistants, you're in the right place. If we haven't met before, or if you're just joining us, I'm Jessica Gardner, founder of award-winning PAEA membership platform, The Assistant Room. Make sure you hit the follow button to keep up to date with all of our future episodes. But without further ado, welcome to Season 2 of the Assistant Room Podcast. In this episode, I speak to Sadie Foster, an ultra high net worth celebrity assistant who also just so happens to be the newly appointed Vice President of the Association of Celebrity Assistants. With close to 10 years experience supporting world-leading film directors, celebrity makeup artists and influential families across various areas of business, Sadie and I cover everything from how to break into the world of becoming a private PA, how to act quickly under intense pressure, which in her case involved navigating a terrorist attack in New York, the importance of being proactive and fearless when creating new opportunities for yourself, and the most valuable piece of advice she has ever received throughout her career. This is interesting.
This is a good one.
This is different.
Of course.
Really different.
Is it not normal that you have like 3 cameras on you and a microphone in your face every day?
Call me Jessica Kardashian if you want.
Sure.
This is really short notice of us.
Yeah.
We decided to do this. You've just gone to Italy. Just
Yep.
come back from Italy. And we decided to do this, 2 or 3 days before you went to Italy?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a quick
Yeah.
email, quick Zoom.
Quick turnaround.
Got 5 minutes. I'm crying in the corner. Let's go. And I'll show up with a big smile on my face.
Very efficient. Life of an EA.
Of course.
And I feel like we're having the perfect setup today for this. Great studio.
Yes.
Brand new brows.
Yes, of course.
Snazzy shoes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If anyone listening to this on iTunes or on Spotify, go and check out YouTube because you'll get to see Sadie's magnificent Steve Madden shoes.
Look, it makes a difference from working from home in my pajamas. So
Very, very sophisticated. Well, let's get a bit serious because we're here to have an amazing conversation. When we were prepping for this, and I think I said to you in my email, I just want this whole episode to basically be you regaling your tales of life as a private PA, because I love listening to you. I said to Amy on the way here, I could literally listen to you recite the ABC and I would just be mesmerised. So let's go back to the beginning. How did you even get involved in this industry to begin with, and when did you get involved in the industry?
So I think if I was to give you a date of private household, I would have been 20. And it wasn't until 2016 that I invited myself to be a PA for a family. I had been nannying, I'd been working in households as an au pair, and predominantly working with kids. So I understood that there was no normal 9 to 5 and you just pick up whatever you need to do. And so I was always going above and beyond there. It wasn't until I joined a family, a film director and a makeup artist. He was shooting Game of Thrones. She was shooting The Greatest Showman. They needed a nanny for 6 months and then they were going to send me on my merry way. And 4 years later, I had just decided that they needed a PA and then they agreed.
So you'd become part of the family by
Yeah,
then?
so it was 6 months of immediately I realised that there was not a need for just a nanny, that the dog needed to have vet visits, and when the basement flooded I needed to sort that out, and actually they haven't redecorated the basement since the kids were little, so let me create a space when they're teenagers, or let me help you out on set, let me do some research for the bearded lady, what flowers can we put in her beard. So
That sounds amazing.
But it was just so natural to me. I've always been someone that's wanted to help you. And some people like that help. Some people don't like that help. But that's just always been me. I get things done. So it obviously was well received. And I was with them until the pandemic hit and the film industry shut down. And I had too much respect for them to expect them to financially support me. And with my tail between my legs, I came back to the UK.
And you were in New York with them,
Yes,
right?
yeah, living in New York. So I took some time out in Somerset with the cows, and when the time was right, moved to London.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That must have been a great first job. A great first job.
I mean,
a very
as a
unusual
PA,
first job.
as a PA. I mean, I think when I look back, it was always set up that it was in private households that I would literally arrange with someone on Gumtree. Yeah, I'll look after your 2 daughters, and jumped on a coach to Outback Australia, and seeing them for the first time was me like moving in to live with them. So I got used to it quite quickly. And so with that job, I was live in for some of it, and I was also live out. And then coming to London was a very different PA experience.
Amazing. So
Yes.
came back to the UK,
Mm-hmm.
spent the pandemic in Somerset,
Yes.
and now where you are at the moment, obviously there's only so much we can say, but you're now working in London.
Yes. So I represent an ultra high net worth business celebrity and his wife. They are both CEOs within their own right. She
Amazing.
is an entrepreneur. So very, very busy, very full on, and very confidential. So this is going to be a fun conversation to navigate.
We are going to make it work. We're going to make it work. Quickly going back to what you said about how it comes very naturally to you. Do you think that, you mentioned obviously the bearded lady and that they must have been absolutely amazing and fascinating to work for. Do you think because it was fun, it made it easier?
Yeah, of course. I think you have to like what you're doing. And that's for anyone. If a doctor doesn't like their job, then we're all in a bit of trouble. You know, you have to like what you're doing. So the difference is, are you going to be starstruck? Are you going to be unprofessional? Are you going to be the one trying to take selfies with them and things like that? And I've got a bit of a love-hate with technology on the best of days. But they're all people. They're all there doing their jobs. You know, there was... Nikki, who's the makeup artist, it was Zendaya's breakthrough movie. And so there was this whole relationship on set that she could do whatever she wanted to her face, but don't touch the brows. That was for Zendaya to do the brows. So you get these kind of snapshots into people's lives. And it does, you have the movie magic. You know, I watched the movie and I was like, oh, they CGI'd me. Like, I was right there. They CGI'd me out. But
oh my God, they CGI'd you. No, Sadie. It was your crowning moment.
So close.
Were you in the credits?
No, because this is what, like, crazy lady in the background. But you also see the reality of it, and you see the hard work that goes into it. You see the long days. And so it's fun to see, and it's a really different angle. But I'm sure that there's other PAs and other EAs that have fun in the work that they do. Mine's just a little bit different.
And just very all-encompassing and very...
there's nothing that's too big or too small.
Roll your sleeves up, get your hands dirty.
And Google really, really quickly what to do.
Yeah, exactly. So, private PA work.
Yeah.
We're going to have a lot of people who are listening to this or watching this who do a combination of both. When I was a PA, I did a combination of both. But being purely private is a completely different kettle of fish. It is... I mean, you and I have spoken a couple of times about what it takes to be a private PA. And I think some people are made for it or you're not made for it. And I know that might be quite a difficult thing for some people to hear because it's a very aspirational place to get to, but it's not for everyone. I mean, what would you say are the kind of key things that you work on as a private PA?
It's really interesting you would say that, actually, just to take a step back, because I think that a combo PA, someone who does both, that's your superhero if you can understand all of those angles. So aspirational is what you take from it. For me, I could argue that it's so one-dimensional, the work that I do. It's just very elevated and it's very personal.
If you were to look at a job description for a private PA, what would that look like?
It's never going to be all-encompassing. It's always going to be very, very limited. It's always going to be, you think it's going to be travel, you think it's going to be, it's going to be glamorous, you're coming on a photo shoot, you're going to be, you know, dealing with this, but it's really not. It's, you know, one day I'm fully researching an AC system or how underfloor heating works in a house. The next day I'm trying to find the best brand of dog treats. The next day I'm, you know, trying to work with the gardener outside, trying to like lay stones. It's rolling up your sleeves at a whole nother level.
Yeah, I think the weirdest thing I ever had to deal with, a request that I was willing to deal with when I was doing private was to get a mini fridge installed in my boss's house so she could keep her cashmere in the fridge.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, very classy. But that was a bit of
Nice.
an unusual thing to have to explain. Oh, why is there a fridge being installed in this walk-in wardrobe? Oh, it's where she keeps her cashmere.
Need one for the beauty essentials as well,
Oh,
darling.
do you? I mean, if you look at what corporate PAs do,
Yeah.
what would you say is the kind of key differences from a soft skill perspective when it comes to being private PA to a corporate PA?
The day never ends.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing to remember, is that at 5:30 as a corporate PA, you are winding down the day and getting ready to go for drinks with the girls in bank. At 5:30, you know, the private jet may break down on the runway and you've got to find them another jet, and you've got to get them to a different airport with logistics, and you've got to find dinner in a really remote part of London from a pub and have to ask them to cook it so hot the devil will eat it, so then we can wrap it and get it so it's on the flight waiting. And you know, it's understanding that their life doesn't finish at 6 o'clock, your life will never finish at 6 o'clock. That to me is the biggest difference. I think skills wise, we all need to be flexible. You've all got to understand, you know, you've got to understand what needs to be done. You need to be quick on your feet. There are such a transferable skill set, but it is understanding that real difference, that life never ends.
Life never ends.
Yeah.
Hamster wheel keeps turning all the
Fun for
time.
me. Squeaking away and loving it.
So
Give me more.
if I was going to come to you and say, Sadie, I want to be a private PA. I've never been a private PA before.
Yeah.
I don't know where to start. I don't know who I want to work for. I don't know what salary I should be looking for.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I'm doing, but I want to be a private PA. You never know. Some
Yeah.
people might be thinking that. What would your advice be to me if I was coming to you looking for your insight as somebody who has that experience?
I'd want to see what your interests are first and foremost, because private PA isn't a job, it's a lifestyle. And you've got to have skills that you can handle in your personal life, in your job. You know, how good are you at negotiating? How good are you at boundaries? How good are you with stress? Are you organized normally, or are you a hot mess? If they are ticking some of those boxes that you think that they'd enjoy the job, you know, what's your experience working with higher level individuals? Have you got experience working in a private household? What's your thoughts on overtime? You know, when you go on holiday, do you take your phone with you? And so it's about understanding if they're cut out for it, because not everyone is. You know, my friends have on multiple occasions said, oh, it's the best job in the world. Like, oh, it's so glamorous. And then they spend a weekend with me and they're like, oh, could not do it. Could not do it. So, yeah, you've got to want to do it. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah. Well, I think I probably wouldn't make it these days.
I don't know. I think you've got it in you.
Oh my God, no. Talk to my EAA me. My brain is all over the place. I sometimes come in the morning and I literally stop halfway through a sentence and I start something else and I have to like take a deep breath.
I think we're all like that though. I think
It's
we've
true.
all got so many things running through our head that if we don't write it down, it can just... the cloud of our brain.
Yeah.
You've still got it. It's like riding a bike.
Oh my God.
Can you ride a bike?
Maybe. I can ride a bike.
Oh, good.
I can skateboard as well.
Can
and I
you?
can horse ride. Yes. So
Oh,
maybe
you are just multifaceted.
yeah, maybe I'm just, you know, if there's ever a talent show,
Yeah.
I would be stuck to try and figure out which
PA's
one.
got talent. Here comes Jessica with her skateboard.
There we go. That's it. If anyone is listening to this and tries to steal that idea, you heard it here first. PA's got talent. Maybe we should take that to Simon Cowell.
That's fine. We can be the judges.
I love that. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so going back to what I said earlier, I wanted this conversation to be all about you regaling your tales of being a private PA, because they are just absolutely fascinating. You tell me something different every single time.
Do I?
We chat.
I've got a few stories.
I absolutely love them. I think it's amazing. I mean, what would you say has been the highlight of your career so far if you were to look back?
That's a great question. It's hard to say if when there's a highlight, because I think as PAs we're naturally very, very harsh on ourselves, and we could do something incredible and, you know, everyone's clapping behind the scenes and you're like, no, that wasn't good enough. I wasn't happy with how this looked. I wasn't happy with that, how, you know, whatever went down. And so it's always on to the next thing. So I can't revel in success or reflection. It's always right, well, I've got 10 other things to do. So for me, if I look at a highlight, it's what I've done for the person. So when I was 20 and living in outback Australia, looking after a 3-year-old, I was just treating that little girl as if she was my little sister, my little cousin. We were having the best fun, you know, dressing up as princesses one day, catching
That's a tough job.
Catching the little lizards the other day, Speedy and Fatso, because they all look the same. And it wasn't until I left that the family turned around and said that I'd saved their marriage. And, you know, for me, I was just doing what was fun at the time. And I was a carefree 20-year-old living in someone's house with a baby that was crying nonstop and was just such an unsettled baby. But how is that not a highlight to know that you've done that for someone else? Or in New York, there was a time, which I think we'll talk about shortly, where I was caught up in quite a big incident. And the mother was actually pregnant during 9/11, and she went into such shock and fear that her baby would be brought up in a world like this and be subject to it, that when it came full circle and she was put in that situation where her son was, you know, less than 100 meters away from a terror attack, she knew that I was there and not only was keeping him safe, but a group of other children and adults safe as well. And so anyone can save money or put together a lavish dinner party, but actually, how can you make a change in someone's life? And I think that's how I try and look for the highlights in my career, is knowing that I've made decisions and have been able to impact their life in a way that they can't forget.
Yeah. And would you say that those particular incidents are maybe, or those particular times are sort of the defining moments of your career?
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, I can always strive for more, and there's always a bigger project or a more expensive house that I need to buy, or the cars get more fabulous, but it's all material. None of it's mine. It makes no difference to me. What matters to me is how I present myself to the people that I'm working for, the relationships that I build with them, and how I make them feel in the process, because it's a really, really delicate balance as a private PA, the relationship that you have with your principals. You know them better than many other people know them. At the same time, you know where the line is.
Do you think that the smaller things have made a bigger impact on your career than the bigger things?
Absolutely.
Because that's what it sounds like.
Absolutely. Because, you know, a big thing becomes a regular thing in the ultra high net worth world. It's, you know, it's the norm to have these incredible experiences or gifting opportunities or whatever, when they know that they can rely on you, and that we are stuck in this country, we need to have a turnaround time of 24 hours. Can you get us back? And the text that I get landed smooth as silk. Sadie's done it again. You know, it's them knowing that they can count on me when it matters. And we all make mistakes. My goodness, we all make mistakes, but also own up to them and grow from them.
Absolutely. Okay, so time when you've had to think on your feet. I know what you're going to say here, and you briefly mentioned it a minute, but give us the full situation.
So it is Halloween, 31st of October, 2017. Americans and myself, we all love Halloween.
And you're in New York at this point,
I'm in New York,
right?
Yep, I'm in New York. I have been creating costumes for one of the children in particular. And I had decided that I was going to dress up as Mary Poppins, complete with the full-blown gloves, hat with the flowers, red lipstick, the lot. And so the parents were both on their own respective sets that day. And trick-or-treating is a huge thing after school, huge. The shops are filling up with candy. You go from houses to store, everything. You've got FDNY standing outside with bowls of candy for the kids. And so we got everyone together after school, and we're just standing around. We're kind of waiting to see what we're going to do. And all of a sudden, just the energy in the air changed. And we heard something happen. It was like a crash or a gunshot or something. And almost immediately we were hearing sirens. And How can you explain when you just feel New York go quiet? And
oh, that sounds really sinister.
yeah, it was just one of those things that we heard, and you could smell something as well. There was something in the air, and we started seeing people walking around us, running past us, and the kids are just wanting to go trick-or-treating. But we then know that something's not right. And we've got some of the parents that have gone inside. They just wanted to quickly talk to a teacher about a few things. The school immediately locks down. So these parents are now shut in the school. And we get word that there's been a terror attack. And so we have no idea what's happened. We don't know if this person has a gun. We don't know if there's another person. We just know that it's happened less than 100 meters away, outside of the school that I was going to, funny enough. So the area, you've got a massive college here. Across the road, you've got a high school. And then across the other street, you've got 3 elementary schools. So it's prime child area. And it came out after that the individual had planned that exact time in that place because of the volume of children that would have been trick-or-treating, and he got the timing completely wrong. So immediately I just realized that I had a group of kids with me that had no parents with them, that had no idea that was going on. They had all been talking about their outfits for weeks.
This was when he drove. There was a guy who drove a truck into a group of people.
Yeah, so it's down the Hudson River. It's this beautiful, beautiful walkway, and he rented a vehicle from New Jersey and drove it over, and then just went on an absolute mission. Wow. It was New York's biggest terror attack since 9/11.
Wow.
It was awful. It was just one of those things that, I'm explaining it to you now, and I feel like it's taking so much time to explain it, but in the moment, so many scenarios went through my head. I don't want these children to be scared of Halloween going forward. I don't want them to live with trauma from this. I don't want them to be scared to go to school from this. What's going on with the parents? Are they going to be okay? Where do we go from here? Is there going to be another attack? And so I just immediately took charge. There were parents crying on the phones to their kids, where are you? Are you okay? Because there'd be one parent picking up their child in elementary school, and they had another 2 children in high school that they couldn't get hold of because they may have been on the train coming home. And so I had my boss calling me, obviously so upset, so worried that we had been impacted from it. And so I had to calm her down and talk her through what I was planning on doing. And so I kind of navigated the kids away, and we were trying to find candy, but it was not going very well by this point. Everyone was kind of shutting up. And it wasn't until I managed to get word from FDNY that there was the first fatality. And at that point, I said that we needed to just go somewhere, lay low for an hour, just in case anything else had happened. And so the kids didn't really know. They could hear the sirens. I mean, there were sirens everywhere. Pretty much there was a traffic of police. And so we took them to a house, and just for an hour, and we're all just standing around in these outfits looking like a lemon. And I'm trying to get news updates, seeing what's going on. All of the parents are just in shock. They're just trying to get hold of any child. They're trying to speak to their kids to make sure that they're okay, trying to keep it as normal as possible. So after about an hour, we realized there wasn't going to be another attack. It was just very much an isolated incident. So we got them on the train, over the bridge into Brooklyn, where we would take them trick-or-treating. And at that point, the parents knew that I was bringing them all back in. And so, we brought them in, and they went off, and I stayed at home with a very, very large glass of wine, and fully did not comprehend what I had just lived through, witnessed, experienced. Even talking about it now, I feel a bit shaky, because in the moment, you just do what's right. And I've always been someone that can handle stress. And I think that day took it to whole new levels. I've never thought clearer. I've never thought quicker. And I wanted them to trick or treat the following year and not have any bad memories, that they would know and they would hear that something happened. And I want them hopefully to look back at that day completely blissfully unaware and safe.
And if you think about how that developed your relationship with the family as well, I mean, they must have, you saved their kid's life technically in their eyes, surely.
I kept him safe. I kept him safe as if he was my own.
Yeah.
And I've always had an approach that whatever I do it the way that I'd want it done myself, which again, as a perfectionist, is just, I've dug my own grave. But in that moment, I knew that there were a group of children that needed someone, and I wasn't a parent who had that emotional, is my child okay? I could turn around to all 10 of them and be like, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's such an extreme story. But it also shows that it doesn't matter the situation that you're in, you know, thinking on your feet. It could save a life. It could save money. It could create this opportunity. It could take you here. You know,
or it could help you overcome a terror attack.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's definitely something that I don't want to live through again. And it's sad that in America, these situations become so normal, and they're a city that's so resilient. They had the Halloween parade that very evening and carried on as normal. And you start to wonder, you know, are you doing this because you don't know any other way, or is this just so normal now that you don't bat an eyelid? But yeah.
Okay, well, as you said, that's a bit of an extreme story, but it's a great example of life as a private PA, of what it could turn into.
Anything. You know, if they've got children, you've been asked to take care of those children. It's not always a fun day at the farm. You think, oh, we're just taking the kids shopping. We're going to go for a McDonald's and we're going to go to the movies, as if there is always a possibility that something could happen.
Yeah,
it's your responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about situations for private PAs.
Yes.
Obviously, you've been in this industry for so long, and you've had amazing experiences, and you must have met lots of other celebrity assistants as well, or private assistants. If you think back, is there any kind of one story that really jumps out to you as one of the most silliest or outrageous things that you have ever heard a private PA having to deal with?
So many.
Too many.
So honestly, I've got like 3 volumes of books that could be released and they'd be bestsellers. I know of one particular who was a PA to a very well-known A-list actress, and she could not have an iPad or any device below 100%. And so it was always on charge, and if the van was pulling up to the house, this individual had to run ahead of her and open up the doors to get into the house to plug in the phone, because 99%, no bueno, darling, no bueno. I've known of private staff being told to wait, 4 hours to drive someone 60 foot down the road. You hear of trying to get on flights without passports because, I'm famous enough. They should know me to let me onto the flight. There is weird and wonderful that goes on left, right, and centre, but you have to remind yourself that's also their norm. So what's crazy for us could be really, really normal for them. But, so many stories.
I have, I remember before the pandemic when we used to host lots of networking events, and obviously we're getting back to them now, and you're coming with us to one tonight, which is going to be really fun. But there was one PA in particular who I remember saying to me, I literally cannot book my boss onto a flight because she won't give me her passport, because she says she doesn't identify with the age that her passport says that she is.
It's a good one.
So she just won't give me her passport.
So does she not fly?
I have no idea how that person overcame that.
You need to teach her how to skateboard, Jess.
I know.
How she can start traveling.
Yeah, exactly. Just a quick skateboard over to the US. No problem.
Get a canoe. That might be better.
It was really funny. Totally sidestep in this conversation. There is a really funny, I can't remember what it is, but a direction in Google. I think it's if you go from the UK to Singapore, it tells you to jet ski across the ocean. I'll find it. It's absolutely brilliant.
I love looking through Google. It's my
treasure trove.
It really is. It really is, of just like street viewing your way through things. How quickly can and do you have it as well, where if it tells you it's going to take you a certain amount of time, you're adamant, no, I'm going to shave 5 minutes off that.
Yeah, no, I'm way faster than that.
Yeah, and then you find that you're like actually matching the time, and then you're getting like aggressively faster with how you walk. Yeah. That's Google.
Mental health.
Of course, yes.
Let's switch to mental health before we go into this rabbit hole of Google mental craziness. Obviously, we've just spoken about something really serious and something that has obviously made a lasting impact on you as a person. What regular effect does having or being a private PA have on your mental health? You know, obviously we talk a lot about boundaries and we talk a lot about respect and we talk a lot about having a work-life balance. You know, is that something that you're able to achieve as a private PA? You know, it is a good standard of mental health the status quo for a private PA?
I think that whatever you allow yourself to be subject to is you are setting your own downfall, or you are setting your own boundaries. If you choose to reply to your texts at 1 o'clock in the morning and then complain when they're texting you at 1 o'clock in the morning, you can't argue that. Burnout is 100% real, 1,000,000% real. I absolutely go through it, but I'm also confident enough in my abilities that I can say when I feel burnt out. I can say when I feel like I'm being overworked, or unrealistic deadlines are being set, because if I'm not feeling like I've got the rest, then it's going to hugely impact my work. I'm going to make stupid mistakes, things are going to slip through the nets. I'm not going to be able to give it my 100%. And mental health exists everywhere. It's not just PAs and EAs or anyone in the support industry that experiences it. We all do. And we all have our own responsibility to be so much more vocal about it, to support each other. And I've always been really, really open with my employers about my own struggles with mental health. I had it recently, not so recently, but recent enough. I had a really bad day, really bad. And I'm sat in their house in the lobby with the CCTV on me, crying hysterically, just there like,
Sadie,
don't even care that they can probably watch me. I'm just there like, life is over. And he calls me, and I'm convinced he called me because he probably got a notification on his CCTV that like Sadie's crying in your lobby. And I had a bit of a chat with him as to why I was feeling the way that I did. And he was amazing. Honestly, he told me to listen to Higher Power by Coldplay. And he said, you've got to remember that in any situation, you have the higher power. Take a long lunch, go for a walk, take it easy, have some water, and you'll be okay. And I think that as anyone who works, as a PA or an EA, we feel like we have to be at the top of our game all the time. Everything's A-okay. I'm fab. I'm living in an absolute hellhole, but life is fab as long as you're okay. But that's not the reality. And sometimes you just have to be honest. I mean, if you're having those days every single day, maybe you do need to take a little step back and have a word with yourself. But it's something that we all navigate. And so I can have days that are really, really tricky still. And I might be a little bit quieter. I might not be as productive. But I know then that if at 10 o'clock at night I'm feeling better, I can smash out 2 hours of work and redeem myself a little bit. But I always try and be there for others. I think that reminding ourselves that we're not alone when we go through things is really reassuring. And I think the benefit for us as well as females is we're so much more open about talking about it, whereas guys aren't. But I think that as long as you feel comfortable with someone, even with my bosses now, I can sense when they're having a bad day. And as I said before, it's about understanding the line. You can still try and talk to them in a way where I can see that you're going through it, and I'm here if you need a really bad joke and some help with some online shopping.
Yeah. Fabulous. What you said a moment ago about if you're having those regular bad days, to take a step back. My last EA role, I quit without a job to go to.
Really?
And without any savings. And I did that because I'd got to a point where my mental health was in such a bad situation. And I talk a lot about how in our industry, I think we have an element of toxic loyalty where we stay somewhere because we feel like we need to have a place to belong.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to change. I think more people should feel empowered to talk about mental health, to leave a situation if they don't feel it's benefiting them anymore. I grew up with my dad teaching me how to be a good quitter. I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before.
No, I'm wanting to hear this.
So he taught me a couple of key lessons, but one of them was how to be a good quitter, so that if a situation is no longer serving you, if you're no longer growing, if you're no longer getting something from it, it is not a bad thing to change direction.
speaks volumes about you as a person, actually, because you are fabulous, and that makes so much sense. I love that.
You just have to embrace the idea that being somewhere just because you're somewhere doesn't mean that that's where you belong.
There's nowhere's forever, and you are always in control of every next step. If you're unhappy, change it.
Exactly.
So
slightly change the subject, but sort of on the topic of control.
Yes.
Let's talk about Somerset emergency volunteers.
Yes.
I'm just going to let you take this away. So what I want to know is I know what it is, but explain to everybody listening and watching, what is Somerset Emergency Volunteers? What was your part in it? And what is it?
Yeah, no, of course. Oh God, I've already got the biggest smile on my face. I came back from Australia after my gap year and was looking for a job, and I'm from Somerset, which is country towns and farmers and small villages, and the winter of 2013, they had widespread flooding. And so that had started when I was still down under. So I wasn't really seeing it on Aussie News, but I was aware from mutual friends from Facebook, etc., that that's what was happening. And so I came back and went to help for a day, and they gave me a pair of waders, which I immediately put on Instagram with #floodfashion, and helped for a day. And it was just an absolute mess with logistics, and no one had taken charge. Everyone was trying to help, but too many cooks in the kitchen and all of that. And so it's not to a detriment of anyone. It was just everyone was trying to help, but who do you go to? And all of these official organizations weren't stepping up. There was so much red tape. No one was helping. And so I went back again. And on this particular day that I showed up, the One Show was filming there. And the guy that had been running it up until then, there was a disused barn that the owners had bought, and they were going to completely renovate into a house. And they said, look, it's yours to set up camp, and this can be your HQ. And so I'm sat there on I think a hay bale, drinking a cup of coffee or whatever out of a paper cup.
In your waders?
Was I in waders that day? No, I don't think I was in waders anymore. But I mean, full face of makeup, you've got to represent. And he just walked into the barn, and he was just like, you're coming with me. And I stood up and I was like, okay, sure. What are we doing? And what are we doing turned out into, you're going to clear out, fridge freezers that have been sat in sewage water for 8 weeks and have got rotting food in, and you've got to put Vicks under your nose because that's the only way that we're going to get through this, and ripping out rotting carpets and stuff like that. And I loved it. All day I was just reapplying the lipstick and just loving it. And but I could tell that they needed me. And at that point, I didn't realize me was a PA. I just realized that I knew that I could do what they needed. And so we're driving back at the end of the day. It's been a really, really long day. I feel sick from the amount of just disgustingness that I was around. And we were driving back in the boot of a car, and the boot was wide open. So we're just there with our legs dangling out. And I said, right, let's go for a burger and a pint. We need to debrief from the day. And we went for dinner, and we decided that we were going to create something and run it together until the very end. And we had no idea what that was going to be. But very quickly, enough organizations jumped on board. We had charity funding. We were given 2 charities to support us, to give us umbrella kind of support, and we created Somerset Emergency Volunteers. And so we were a group of about 20 to 30 core volunteers, mainly those from low income housing, that would come help out for the day. We'd give them a hot meal or 2.
This is amazing.
Yeah, and they would get out, have some walkie-talkies. I managed to get a contact from my dad to donate some walkie-talkies, and I mean, anything on that walkie-talkie is not appropriate to be saying in here, but they were just loving it. This sense of community that we built, and so we wanted to do more. And so I was 21. I had no idea what I was doing. There were days that I'd show up in my pajamas because I was working so many hours. I had no time to do my laundry. But my heart and soul were into helping this community. And so I got a little laptop and I was joking that I was his PA, but actually I really wasn't. I was running the show from behind the scenes. They used to joke that he may wear the trousers, but it's clear that Sadie's choosing which trousers he's wearing. And so we helped over 120 different families. I think, statistics-wise, I think we spent around 250,000 on the entire project. And if the council would have paid full price for the labour and the work that they would have done, they would have spent around 20 to 30 million.
Wow.
So it was all just blagging, negotiating. How can we save money? How can you do this? And then we started getting the corporate social responsibility days coming in. And so I hear that now with corporate PAs talking about CSR and how they can do it. But I was on the flip side of trying to get, Argos on board and Lloyd's on board. And we had these great, great companies coming down. And there was one day, I think we had 120 people. And I had to navigate the entire thing and bring in our core volunteers. And how can we do this? And it was just incredible. I had no idea what I was doing. None. All I knew is that the neighbours and the community would be standing at their gates because they knew there'd be a time that would be driving around and seeing what we could do. And they would just give the request to us. And I'd type it down on my iPad, like, yeah, sure. And I'd be wearing bunny ears and we'd be pulling out like feather boas from like the skips, be throwing them on me. And we would just get it done. And so at first they were like, we did think you were a bit of a joke at first because you just showed up with these like fairy wings on saying that you were going to, have our fence panels replaced. But actually, you did replace our fence panels. So, in hindsight, it was my crash course into being a PA. But at the time, I was just helping those that needed to be helped. My family was so angry about it. I turned down a job at a law firm, actually, to get this job. And I'm so glad I did. So glad I did. It was the best thing I ever did.
Again, something very people orientated
Absolutely.
and people driven that's
always been
must have made a huge impact on your life and changed you as a person, or
always been
built you into the person who you are now as well.
Yeah, if someone needs help them.
Yeah.
And I think that to me is such an obvious thing to say. Not really, shattering glass ceilings with that statement.
It's not something that comes naturally to everyone though.
Yeah, that's it. And I have to remind myself
It's a shame.
that. But I was just amazing. And we have we arranged Father Christmas to come to the village and give presents to the children. We did fundraising events. We did real kind of community bonding events to bring everyone together. And so for me, it was a case of put my heart and soul in it for a year and then let them get back to it. I didn't want to stay too long at the party that I was never invited to, let's be honest. It was incredible.
It's just I think it's such a nice theme throughout everything we've spoken about so far. You putting yourself out there, or just being willing to accept these amazing opportunities, and you've had the most wonderful time.
I think there's a lot for just saying yes to something, and what's the worst that could happen. I'm someone that I've always wanted to help, and I remember being a kid at school when there was flooding in Mozambique. I went to a Church of England school, and I wanted for us to pray for those there. And then it was, well, what can I do next? I want to raise money for the local special needs school. Now I want to raise money for this. Now I want to make it bigger. How can I do this? And so that is something that's come naturally. I think we should all help each other. And I think that's also a really, really great mindset for a good PA, is that you need to be collaborative. How can I help you and how can you help me? Because if I try and navigate this industry by myself, I'm going to crash and burn in the corner. I really am. And these network groups are amazing for that, because we can share those ideas. So A, for our mental health, amazing. And B, when we are desperately needing help, we can just lean on each other.
Yeah, you learn more from listening, I think, to somebody speak, regardless of what industry you're in.
I know, absolutely.
Listening to someone talk about their experiences, what they've done, how they've done it.
Yeah.
That's why networking is so important.
Just be a sponge of information.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think being a PA is the best position to be sponge-like.
Yes.
100%. Because you're going through technically like business mentoring school.
Yes.
And people mentoring school and decision-making mentoring school. All the things that make you a brilliant leader is what you learn being a PA. If you use it in the right way.
You just have to listen and be smart.
Exactly. Transitioning really, nicely actually into Networks.
Yes.
Association of Celebrity Assistants.
Yes.
You are on the board.
I am.
Of the Association of Celebrity Assistants.
Yeah.
I don't know how well known the ACA is outside of that. I've known about the ACA for years and years and years and years.
Have you?
Because I've got friends when I was a PA,
Yes.
you know, and I stopped being a PA 6 years ago now, but I had friends that I used to network with who were members of the ACA. So I've known about the ACA for ages and ages and ages and ages, and I'm always absolutely fascinated by it. And you're on the board, as we've already said.
Yes.
For those people who aren't familiar with the organisation, what is the ACA and what is your role as a board member there?
I would like to think that the ACA is just the best network for those who are in the ultra high net worth and celebrity field, because the things that we do of a day to day aren't quite the norm. And so, you know, when we need a contact for Harry Styles for Madison Square Garden, if I was to go to a regular network, potentially I might fall slightly short. Whereas in the ACA, I'm normally linked to someone very, very quickly. There's normally an email within an email and, oh, we can help with that. And so it's amazing. And I found it before I'd even moved to London. I was just, I need to find something. I need to make myself useful whilst I'm here in Somerset. And it was all very, very quiet. And then April last year, they wanted to really reinvent and rebrand themselves. And when I got this job in November 2020, I made a pact with myself that it was 3 years of yes. And whatever came my way, just say yes to it. What do I have to lose? Are
we still in the 3 years?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
So that's why we're here today?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. You say yes to everything.
Good.
What's the worst that could happen? And we'll see what comes from it. And so there was this whole thing of, oh, Sadie, you should join the board. Sadie, you should become president of the board. Well, yeses have to come with a boundary. So I was like, no, absolutely not president. But I'd love to join the board. I'd love to get involved. I'd love to see what it's about. I'd love to get involved with the other members and network and meet you and see what you bring to the table. And so, you know, I'm a unique personality. I am not the most corporate of people. I am not the most formal of people. I have a Tinkerbell water bottle. I have Barbie sunglasses. I am all for like wearing pink and sparkly things. And it's part of my personality, which luckily my bosses like. So I just felt this real pressure of stepping up to a board where these are really well accomplished individuals, vets of the industry, and that I was coming in and being like, yeah, I'm on a board now, like, hi. And so I really, and I'm sure this has been spoken about so much, imposter syndrome. I was waiting for like first board meeting for them to be like, Sadie, we're actually going to kick you off the Zoom because, you know, you shouldn't be here. But it's been amazing. And Vincenzo, our president, is just absolutely...
I know Vincenzo.
Oh, Vincenzo knows everyone.
I know Vincenzo.
You know, coming in and working out how we can modernize it and, you know, bring fresh faces in. Because if you don't know the industry or if you don't know of the ACA, then yeah, we're not someone that... We're not out there trying to brand and every 2 seconds, come join. It's, you know, if it's like a speakeasy, if you know where it is.
If you know, you know.
You're in for a great time.
Yeah, exactly. And it must be lovely to have a group of people who all get it in an elevated way, because what I mean by an elevated way, your role is very, very different. And as you said, you know, you need very, very specific requests to be, you know, fulfilled that aren't your normal everyday requests. And it all comes down to surely somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. Maybe someone pulled a favour and someone's got, you know, something that they can call on someone.
And that's always the way. So I've had it where I needed tickets for a show that weren't there for the general public, and a friend had a friend who was someone within the theatre. Within 3 weeks, they were sat there watching the show. Connections to someone, can we get this? I need a car from this country to here. I need a courier from this to there. I need a private jet that can do this X, Y, and Z. And it's very rare that something goes left, you know, no, I can't help you on that. It doesn't really happen. And I think that, I mean, it could just be me, and this could be a real generational thing, and it's something that I've spoken about before, and I've had mixed reviews, so it'd be great to hear what you think on this. But I think that generationally, there are a generation of PAs that are very, very protective about the network that they've built and that contact list that they've built up and that little black book. And quite rightly, if you've worked so hard for that, why do you want to just give it away for free? I have come in on the entire basis of mi casa, su casa. What's mine is yours. Like, how can I help you? What do you need? Before coming in here today, someone needed a contact for someone in AC. And they're like, yep, how can I help? Like, and that's where we go, because I know that the favor will be returned soon enough. I know that if I'm really, really up against it, I can always go to them. And there's, nearly 100 people in the group.
Yeah.
At least one of them is going to be able to help somehow or point me in the right direction.
Absolutely. We spoke to Sophie Chapman, Stephen Bartlett's PA, earlier this season, and she said about how she's going to kill me if I don't get this right, and I'm not going to get this exactly right. So apologies, Sophie, in advance. But she spoke about how the quality of your connections often goes back to the level of support that you gave them. And if someone does something for her, that relationship in her mind is so much stronger than it was before. And she wants to say thank you. She wants to reward them for that. And I have always said that in our industry, we're an industry of support, and we support each other, not just our bosses. Yeah. And even though you have got that level of protection when it comes to your black book, I opened my black book when I started the assistant room and did that very willingly. I think you and I have that in common. And it's almost as though it's paying it forward.
Absolutely.
We have a responsibility as people who are established within the industry in whichever area we sit in to help other people go from the beginning of their career to where they want to be, because we have that knowledge and we have that wisdom. And I suppose that's what mentoring is all about.
Yeah.
And sharing that ability and those experiences that you've had. And that is why sitting down at a table with a group of PAs and EAs and listening to them talk about how they dealt with something, what went right, what didn't go right, what's hot right now, what's not working, what's trending. We have a group of ambassadors that we ask that every single month.
And we're uber current as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what sets our industry apart, is that we are always at the top of our level, top of our game, no matter the field that we're in. If we were to take 2 years out of work right now, we would be considerably behind on everything, because you have to know everything a little bit about everything, that you can cover all bases. And particularly for me as well, within my field, I'm representing someone who is undeniably at the top of his game, and I am incredibly fortunate to be able to view him as a mentor. And I ask him business questions, and recently I was asking investment questions and things like that I can then learn. People would pay a lot of money to be in my position, to have the opportunity to ask those questions. And so I have to remind myself how fortunate I am, that take away my career, just as a person, I'm so lucky.
Yeah. And talking about bosses.
Yes.
And the support that you've had from bosses, I suppose, over the last however many years, whether it's your current boss or a previous boss, what's the best piece of advice that you think you've ever received from somebody when it comes to your, not necessarily just your career, but in general?
There's been so many. There really has. There's been like the fleeting bits of advice that you don't realise how much they mattered until you're put in that situation. But I had a boss once who, and I think that I apply it, I really do. She said, help others, you never know when you're going to need to be helped. And she spoke about her experiences and the help that she received and how she goes out of her way now to help anyone who needs it, because she had been in that place however many years ago, and so she knew that the circle was going, full circle. And so I felt that really resonated and stuck with me, and I see her do it every day, time and time again. She will put herself below anybody else to make sure that they have that moment in their need, and she never asks for a thing back. She is the most loved person in the room. She has celebrities fawning after her, begging her to be their personal member of staff that she goes with everywhere. She is loved. She is requested by directors left, right, and centre. I absolutely the respect that I have for her as a woman, seeing her mentorship, her leadership, her approach as a mother, she is incredible, absolutely incredible. I wouldn't actually be sat here if it wasn't for her. Amazing woman.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so wonderful. I don't want to kind of generalize here, but I think that is probably a very rare circumstance that a lot of PAs and EAs find themselves in, working for somebody who is so senior or so established in their own right, who is just so giving as a person. It must be wonderful.
Yeah, and you're right. You are right. You know, she never needed to do what she did in terms of mentoring or emotional support. She was always there to listen if there was a bad day, or, you know, texting. We still stay in touch now to this day. The difference is, if you want to, you know, the true leadership, the difference between a leader and a boss, how are you going to have the people around you grow? And she is all about growth, no matter who you are. If you are an intern on set for one day, she will treat you with the same respect, love, and adoration that she would for the A-list actress that sat in her chair. She's amazing.
That's wonderful. I hope she listens to this.
Shout out to Nikki.
I want to meet Nikki. Okay, so advice still. Let's keep on this topic of advice. If we flip it, best piece of advice you've ever had from a PA or an EA?
Ooh. Loose lips sink ships.
Oh, yeah. Especially when you're private. Yeah.
And I think that is something that you have to know when the time is right to say information. And so it is hard. I feel like I can never say anything, yet sometimes I should say everything. And so, you know, read the room and understand. But I think that is such a wise reminder in times of frustration. It's so easy to just vent over a cocktail one day, but I signed up for this lifestyle. I signed up for this job. I signed up for the phone going off at times when I'd prefer for it not to. And so just remind yourself, humble yourself as well, that in the Devil Wears Prada, a million girls would kill for this job. So
maybe for the kind of person that wants to vent, get a cat or get a rabbit.
Oh, I have a cat. No, my cat is my PA, actually.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
PA, therapist.
Yeah, no, she does all of it.
Everything.
And when she goes missing, everyone knows. My workload stops immediately. Guys, Chi-Chi's gone missing. I'll be back in half an hour.
I Okay, let's look back on your career.
Yes.
Final question.
Yes.
Sadie, day one.
Yes.
Advice again. What would be your piece of advice that you would give Sadie on day one, considering everything you've been through and everything you've experienced so far?
Enjoy the ride and stay true to yourself. I think it's so easy to be caught up and swept under this rug of you need to be someone you're not. You're representing them. You should be a mirror of them. You should, you know, fade into the shadows. You need to be super professional. Don't overstep this. Don't do this. And you find yourself changing and manipulating until you look at yourself and be like, that's not me. And I've been really, really fortunate in this role that they have allowed me to just be me, and they've trusted me, and that they've not, you know, oh, we need you to act like this. We need you to redraft that email, actually, and don't say that, and don't make that joke, and maybe don't comment on that situation. But my boss actually said to me once, I just love how you write emails. And it was just such a small thing, but to me it was I see who you are as a person, and I see that you present that in the best possible way that represents me. And I think that's so, so important, because it will help me succeed. If I'm kind of trying to pigeonhole myself into being a PA or a private PA, I'd probably quit within 6 months. I couldn't do it. If I can be myself and be the Sadie that shows up with the Tinkerbell water bottle and the bike that I've called the Ferrari, because it gets me around.
Love the Ferrari.
Yeah, it gets me around London quicker than your Ferrari. So, you know, it's just, it makes me me, and it means that I can do what I do better. And I think that's what other PAs need to do as well. Don't forget who you are representing someone else. They've hired you because of you. So keep doing you.
Thank you, Sadie.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram to keep up to date with all of our future episodes. And if you're looking for a place to focus on your personal and professional development, we have a place in the Assistant Room membership with your name on it. Head to our website for more information on how to sign up and become part of our award-winning online global community for assistants everywhere.